The moment I realized something was wrong, it was already too late to turn back. The forest had been loud just minutes before. Wind moving through the canopy, distant birds calling, branches shifting under their own weight. A living place, breathing. But then, without warning, the sound thinned out like someone slowly turning a dial. Not silence all at once, but a gradual withdrawal. One sound gone, then another. Until all that remained was the steady rhythm of my own steps and the faint pulse in my ears. I kept walking. People like to believe danger announces itself. That fear comes with noise, with sudden movement, with clear signs you can react to. That's a lie we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. Real danger arrives quietly. It lets you move forward while it studies you. I felt it before I saw it, that pressure between the shoulder blades, the instinctive tightening in the chest, the unshakable certainty that something behind me was aware of every step I took. I didn't stop immediately. I told myself it was nothing. Fatigue, imagination. Forests are good at playing tricks on the mind, but the feeling didn't fade. It sharpened. I slowed my pace slightly, just enough to test it. The sound behind me adjusted. Leaves compressed with the same timing as my steps, neither closer nor farther. Perfectly measured. Too precise to be coincidence. That's when I stopped. The sound stopped too. Not a second later, not delayed, instantly. I turned slowly, aware of how exposed I suddenly felt, standing in the middle of a narrow trail with trees packed tightly on both sides. The forest behind me stretched into shadow and depth, layers of trunks and branches overlapping until distance lost meaning. And there he was, a wolf, not emerging from cover, not moving toward me, simply standing in the open as if he had always been there and I had only just been allowed to notice. His body was angled slightly, weight balanced evenly, muscles relaxed but ready. His fur caught the filtered light in muted shades of gray and brown, blending almost perfectly with the forest itself. What unsettled me most wasn't his size or his teeth. It was his eyes. They weren't frantic, they weren't aggressive. They held no urgency. They watched me with a calm intensity that felt deliberate, as if he was processing information rather than reacting emotionally. Like I wasn't prey yet, but I wasn't irrelevant either. We stood there, separated by distance but connected by attention. Time stretched in a way that felt unnatural. My thoughts raced, searching for rules, for remembered advice, for anything that could turn this moment into something predictable. Don't run. Maintain eye contact. Make yourself look larger. All of it sounded fragile now, theoretical, detached from the reality of standing face to face with a predator that had already decided not to rush. The wolf took a step forward, not fast, not slow, intentional. My body reacted before my mind caught up, a half step backward. The wolf stopped instantly, mirroring me. The space between us remained unchanged. Like an invisible boundary neither of us was crossing yet. That's when understanding settled in. He wasn't hunting me. Hunting is efficient, direct. Wolves don't waste energy on uncertainty. What this was evaluation, observation, the kind of patience that belongs to something completely at home in its environment. I turned away and resumed walking. The sound returned behind me, steady, measured, calm. Each step I took was answered by another, never closing the distance, never falling behind. It felt less like being chased and more like being escorted or tested. My breathing became shallow, controlled, as if any sudden change might disrupt an unspoken agreement I didn't remember making. Minutes passed. The trail curved deeper into the forest, light dimming as the canopy thickened. Shadows stretched longer, swallowing detail. My phone was useless, no signal, no map. Just a fading battery and the growing realization that this encounter was no longer a moment. It was a process. I glanced back again. The wolf was still there. Same posture, same distance, same eyes. There was no aggression in his movement, but there was no hesitation either. He adjusted his path when I adjusted mine, staying aligned without effort. I began to notice details I hadn't before. The way his ears shifted slightly with each sound, the way his head moved just enough to keep me centered in his vision. He was learning me, my pace, my reactions, my limits. Fear settled into something heavier, not panic but awareness. A recognition that I was being measured against the environment itself. The forest wasn't neutral anymore. It was his territory, and I was the variable being introduced into it. The longer it went on, the harder it became to believe this was coincidence. Wolves don't follow without reason. They don't shadow without intent. Every step suggested restraint, and restraint is never meaningless. The trail narrowed, trees pressing closer, roots breaking through the soil like exposed veins. The air felt thicker here, damp and cold against my skin. I had the sudden, uncomfortable thought that even if I wanted to leave, I might not be allowed to do so easily. I slowed. He slowed. I stopped. He stopped. The connection was undeniable now, not mystical, not symbolic, practical, predatory. A silent dialogue written entirely in movement and restraint. And somewhere in that realization, another thought surfaced. Quieter, but far more disturbing. This wasn't a random encounter, this was a beginning. The forest no longer felt like a place I was moving through. It felt like something that was closing around me, slowly and without urgency. The wolf remained behind me, always present, never rushing, never retreating. The distance between us had become a constant, as reliable as gravity. That consistency was unsettling in a way sudden danger never could be. I kept walking because stopping felt worse. Every instinct told me that turning around again would change something, and I didn't know if that change would be in my favor. There was an unspoken rhythm now. My steps, the slight sway of branches, the muted compression of leaves behind me. It was as if the forest itself had agreed to move at a single pace. The trail I had been following began to fade, not abruptly. It didn't disappear. It simply lost its definition. The ground became uneven, the path less certain, the edges blending into undergrowth. I told myself I could turn back, retrace my steps, but the idea felt hollow. Direction had stopped meaning what it used to. Forward and backward were no longer opposites. They were just movements. I slowed again, this time deliberately. The sound behind me adjusted instantly. That's when the realization hit harder than fear ever could. He wasn't reacting to me anymore. He was anticipating me. The delay I expected never came because there was nothing to delay. My decisions were no longer surprises. They were variables already accounted for. I stopped completely. For the first time since the encounter began, I didn't hear him stop. There was a pause, barely noticeable but real. A fraction of a second where the forest held its breath. Then the sound returned, closer than before. Not rushing, not threatening, just closer. I didn't turn around this time. Something told me not to. Instead, I listened. The shift of weight, The subtle movement of muscle through fur, the controlled placement of paws that barely disturbed the ground. Every sound carried intention, precision. He wasn't careless, he wasn't excited. He was calm in a way that suggested experience. This wasn't his first time doing this. I resumed walking, my pace more cautious now, every step chosen instead of automatic. The terrain dipped slightly, leading into a lower part of the forest where light struggled to reach the ground. The temperature dropped. Moisture clung to the air, making each breath feel heavier than the last. That's when I noticed the second presence. At first, it was nothing more than a sensation. A subtle widening of awareness, as if the space around me had expanded. Then came the sound, not behind me, to the side, farther out, almost imperceptible but deliberate. Another wolf. I didn't see it, but I didn't need to. The forest had shifted again, its silence rearranged. The pressure I felt was no longer linear. It wasn't just behind me anymore. It was lateral, surrounding, testing boundaries. The thought formed slowly, reluctantly. I wasn't being followed, I was being positioned. The realization didn't trigger panic, it triggered clarity. Wolves don't waste energy, they don't improvise without purpose. Whatever this was, it had structure, roles, awareness beyond what I could see. I adjusted my path slightly to the left. The presence to my left adjusted too, perfectly. The one behind me maintained his distance, anchoring the formation. I felt suddenly very small, not physically but situationally. Like a piece on a board whose shape had already been decided. My heart rate climbed, but my movement stayed controlled. Fear, I realized, wasn't the problem. Erratic behavior was. Predators react to instability. Calm was my only currency now. I reached a small clearing, not open but less dense. Fallen logs crossed the ground, moss-covered and slick with moisture. The canopy above thin, just enough to let pale light filter through. It felt like a deliberate space, not random, as if the forest itself had made room for something to happen here. I stopped. The wolf behind me stopped again, exactly where he had been before, restoring the distance as if it were elastic. I turned slowly this time, fully, deliberately. He stood there, watching me. Closer than before, but still not within reach. His posture hadn't changed. Still calm, still balanced. His ears were forward now, alert but not aggressive. His eyes held mine, steady and unreadable. Then he did something unexpected. He sat down, not abruptly, not defensively. He simply lowered himself onto his haunches, posture relaxed but attentive, like an observer settling in. The message was unmistakable. This wasn't about speed, this wasn't about hunger. This was about control. The forest felt different now, less like a corridor and more like a room. The silence pressed inward, amplifying every small movement. I could feel the presence of the other wolf somewhere beyond the trees, unseen but undeniable. Minutes passed like this. I stood. He sat. Neither of us moved. That was when a new thought crept in, uninvited and heavy. What if this wasn't escalation? What if this was restraint? Predators don't always act because they want to. Sometimes they don't act because they don't need to. The power lies in the option, not the execution. The wolf tilted his head slightly, just enough to change the angle of his gaze. It wasn't curiosity, it was assessment, like he was waiting for something specific from me. A mistake, a signal, a break in composure. I shifted my weight unconsciously. He rose instantly, not threatening, not aggressive, just ready. The message was clear. The rules hadn't changed, but the margin for error had disappeared. And as I turned and continued deeper into the forest, I understood something that sent a cold clarity through me. Whatever this was leading toward, it wasn't over. It was progressing. The forest felt older the deeper I went, not in years, but in memory. Trees grew thicker, their trunks wider, bark layered and scarred as if they had watched generations pass without comment. The light thinned until it became a suggestion rather than a presence, and shadows began to overlap in ways that made distance hard to judge. I was no longer walking freely. Every direction I chose felt approved before I chose it. When I slowed, the pressure behind me adjusted. When I veered slightly off the faint trail, the space ahead closed in subtly, guiding me back without resistance. It was efficient, quiet, almost respectful. There was no panic in the forest, no sudden movements, no noise meant to intimidate. That absence of force was what made it terrifying. I realized then that I wasn't being hunted the way stories describe. There was no chase, no snapping jaws, no snarling warning. This wasn't predation fueled by urgency. This was something closer to instruction, like I was being shown where to go without ever being told. The clearing from before disappeared behind me, swallowed by trees that closed ranks as soon as I passed. I glanced over my shoulder just once. The wolf was still there, not closer, not farther, exactly where he had always been. His eyes met mine again, steady and unblinking, but now there was something else behind them. Not curiosity, not hunger, familiarity. As if he had seen this moment before, not this exact moment, but one like it. I turned forward again. That's when I noticed the ground changing beneath my feet. The soil grew firmer, packed down in places where undergrowth should have been thick. Fallen leaves lay disturbed, not scattered randomly, but pressed flat, smoothed by repeated passage. The path was invisible unless you knew how to read it. This wasn't untouched forest. This was territory. My breathing slowed, not because I was calm, but because instinct had taken over. Loud breathing felt wrong here. Everything about this place rewarded stillness and punished excess. The forest wasn't hostile, it was selective. A sound came from ahead, not behind, not beside, ahead. It was subtle, a low movement, barely audible but deliberate. Something large shifted its weight, then stilled again. The sensation I felt wasn't fear anymore. It was recognition. I wasn't walking into the unknown. I was walking into something prepared. The space opened gradually, revealing a wider area surrounded by thick trees. Not a clearing, more like a hollow sunken slightly below the surrounding ground. Moss-covered stones dotted the perimeter, some half-buried, others worn smooth by time. The air here felt heavier, dense with scent and silence. This place had been used. I stopped at the edge. The wolf behind me stopped as well, but this time I felt him closer. Not enough to touch, but enough that the space between us felt intentional. He wasn't pushing me forward anymore. He was holding me in place. I scanned the hollow slowly, carefully. No sudden movements. No searching that looked like panic. My eyes traced the stones, the trees, the uneven ground. And then I saw it. Tracks. Not fresh, but not ancient either. Pressed into the soil in overlapping patterns. Multiple directions, multiple sizes. Wolves had gathered here before more than once. This wasn't a chance meeting spot. This was a center. A sound came from the far side of the hollow. This time it wasn't subtle. Branches parted. Weight shifted. Something stepped into view. Another wolf, larger than the one behind me. He moved with an authority that needed no display. His coat was darker, thicker around the neck, his posture upright and composed. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. He simply appeared as if the forest itself had decided to reveal him. He stopped and looked directly at me. The world narrowed. Everything else, the trees, the ground, even the wolf behind me, faded slightly as his presence took focus. This wasn't just another animal. This was the center of gravity for everything happening here. The wolf behind me moved, then stepping slightly to the side. Not forward, not backward, aside. He was yielding space. The meaning landed instantly. This wasn't a group without structure. This wasn't random coordination. There was hierarchy here. The larger wolf took a single step forward and stopped. His gaze never left me, not aggressive, not soft, evaluative. He wasn't deciding whether to attack. He was deciding something else. I stood completely still, muscles tense but controlled. Every instinct screamed to run, but every rational thought knew that movement without permission would end badly. The silence stretched, thick and pressing. Then something unexpected happened. The larger wolf lowered his head slightly, not submission, not weakness, acknowledgement. It was subtle enough that I might have missed it if I hadn't been watching so closely. A shift in posture that communicated awareness, not threat. He wasn't welcoming me. He was accepting my presence. The forest seemed to respond. The tension didn't disappear, but it changed. The pressure eased just enough to allow breath. The wolves didn't advance, they didn't retreat, they waited. And that was when the most unsettling thought of all settled into my mind. This wasn't a mistake, this wasn't a coincidence. I hadn't wandered into their space. I had been allowed into it. Whatever rule I had unknowingly followed, whatever signal I had given simply by the way I moved, breathed, existed, it had mattered. And now I was standing somewhere I wasn't supposed to reach easily. The larger wolf turned slightly, angling his body toward the deeper forest beyond the hollow. He didn't walk away, he didn't look back at me. He just shifted, creating a line of sight, a direction. The wolf behind me didn't move. The one in the trees didn't reveal himself. Everything pointed forward. The message wasn't spoken, but it was unmistakable. You can go, but understand what that means. As I took my first step past the hollow into territory that felt older and quieter than anything I had known before, I realized something that made my blood run cold. Following me hadn't been the point. This was an invitation. The moment I crossed the invisible line beyond the hollow, the forest changed its behavior. That was the only way I could describe it. It wasn't the scenery. The trees were still trees, the ground still uneven, the air still cold and damp. But something fundamental shifted, as if the forest had stopped reacting to me and started accounting for me instead. My footsteps sounded different, not louder, not softer, more noticeable. As though sound itself carried further here, traveled with intention. I placed my feet more carefully, testing the ground before committing my weight, aware that every movement now mattered in a way it hadn't before. Behind me, I felt the presence of the wolves adjust. They didn't follow closely anymore, they spread out. The realization came slowly, then all at once. The pressure I had felt earlier, the constant awareness at my back, dissolved, replaced by something more unsettling. I could no longer pinpoint where they were. The sense of being watched didn't vanish, it fragmented, coming from multiple directions at once. That's when I understood. I wasn't being escorted anymore. I was being surrounded, not aggressively, not tightly, but deliberately. A living boundary, flexible and aware, allowing me space to move while quietly ensuring I could not leave it. The forest ahead stretched deeper, darker, more ancient by the step. The forest behind me felt closed, not blocked. Closed. I stopped walking. The silence pressed in immediately, thick and alert. Somewhere to my left, a branch creaked, not snapped, not disturbed, simply adjusted under weight. To my right, the underbrush shifted with a controlled ease that only something experienced could manage. They were repositioning. I stood still long enough that my breath slowed on its own, my pulse settling into a rhythm that felt almost foreign. Panic would have been easy here. It would have been natural. But something about this place rejected chaos. Fear felt loud. Calm felt required. I turned slowly, scanning the trees. No wolves revealed themselves. That too felt intentional. The path ahead narrowed into something less like a trail and more like a corridor formed by the forest itself. Trees leaned inward slightly, roots twisted across the ground like veins, moss thick enough to mute sound. The light thinned further, becoming diffuse, directionless. I walked. Time lost its shape after that. Minutes stretched and folded, impossible to count. The forest repeated patterns without duplicating them. Every turn felt familiar without being the same. I passed stones that looked placed rather than fallen, trees scarred at heights too uniform to be accidental. The air carried a layered scent, old and recent overlapping. This place remembered. A low sound drifted through the trees ahead, not a growl, a breath, slow, controlled, close. I froze. The sound came again, closer this time, followed by the soft compression of leaves beneath weight. Something large moved parallel to me now, just out of sight. I could feel it not behind me, not in front, but beside me, matching my pace without revealing itself. I kept walking. Stopping felt wrong here, like halting mid-sentence. The forest opened slightly, revealing a slope descending into a shallow basin. At its center stood a fallen tree, massive and ancient, its trunk split and hollowed by time. The space around it was clear, the ground packed flat. This place felt central. I stepped into the basin. The moment my foot touched the lower ground, the air shifted. The sense of enclosure intensified, not tighter but deeper. The forest wasn't closing in. It was focusing. Then the wolves appeared, not all at once, not dramatically. One emerged to my left, standing atop a rock, partially obscured by shadow. Another appeared ahead, sitting calmly near the fallen tree. A third revealed himself behind me, farther than I expected, blocking the path I had come from without standing directly in it. And then there was the large one. He stepped into view from behind the fallen trunk, his presence anchoring the space. He didn't rush. He didn't posture. He simply occupied the center as if it had always been his. They weren't forming a circle, they were forming a structure. I stood in the open, aware of how exposed I was, yet strangely untouched by the urge to flee. Every part of my body felt tuned, alert without being frantic. My thoughts slowed, sharpened. The large wolf looked at me for a long time. Then he did something I didn't expect. He turned away, not dismissively, not carelessly, purposefully. He moved toward the hollowed tree and stopped, glancing back once, not to check if I was following, but to confirm I was watching. The message was clear without being explicit. Observe. The other wolves didn't move closer. They held their positions, silent sentinels. Whatever this moment was, it wasn't about confrontation, it was about awareness. I watched the large wolf approach the fallen trunk. He lowered his head, sniffing the ground and the wood, reading information I couldn't begin to interpret. Scars along the trunk spoke of years, maybe decades of use. This wasn't shelter. It was a marker. The wolf lifted his head and looked directly at me again. For the first time, I felt something shift behind his gaze. Not emotion, but assessment completed. A decision reached. The forest seemed to exhale. The wolves around me adjusted subtly, their postures easing just enough to signal that something had changed. I wasn't a variable anymore. I was a known quantity. That realization unsettled me more than fear ever could. Because now there was a question forming in my mind, unavoidable and heavy. If they had decided what I was, what came next? The large wolf turned away once more, this time moving past the fallen tree toward a narrow opening in the forest beyond. The path there was darker, tighter, less forgiving. He didn't look back. The wolves around me didn't follow immediately. They waited for me. I understood then that this wasn't about being allowed to leave. This was about being allowed to continue. And as I took a slow step forward toward a place the forest itself seemed reluctant to reveal, a single thought cut through my calm with chilling clarity. Some paths don't test whether you survive them. They test whether you belong. The path narrowed until it felt less like a choice and more like a passage that had already decided to exist beneath my feet. Branches closed overhead, blocking what little light remained, and the forest grew quiet in a way that felt deliberate. Even the wind seemed unwilling to follow me here. I walked slowly, not because I was afraid to move, but because rushing felt disrespectful to whatever rules governed this place. The ground sloped gently downward, drawing me into a pocket of forest so still it felt separate from time itself. Then the path ended, not abruptly, not dramatically. It simply stopped. Before me was a small clearing, no larger than a room ringed by ancient trees whose roots rose from the soil like frozen waves. In the center lay a single stone, flat and worn smooth, its surface marked by faint scratches that time had softened but not erased. The wolves did not follow me in. I could feel them at the edge of the clearing just beyond sight, present, watching but not intruding. This space was not meant for them, it was meant for me. I stood there alone, the weight of the moment settling slowly. Nothing happened, no threat revealed itself, no answer arrived. The forest did not explain itself, and that, I realized, was the point. Whatever test I had passed wasn't one of strength or bravery. It wasn't about dominance or submission. It was about restraint, awareness, the ability to move through something powerful without trying to control it. I understood then why the wolf had followed me without attacking. I had never been prey. I had been observed. I took a step closer to the stone and felt the forest shift, not in warning, but in recognition. The space accepted my presence without reacting to it. For a moment, brief and fragile, I felt aligned with something older than fear. Then the feeling faded. A sound broke the silence behind me. Soft, final. I turned. The large wolf stood at the edge of the clearing now, alone. His gaze met mine one last time, steady and unreadable. There was no invitation in it, no farewell, just acknowledgement. He turned away and vanished into the trees without a sound. The forest opened behind him. The path back existed again. I left the clearing slowly, the weight lifting with every step. The pressure faded. The forest returned to what it had been before, wild, indifferent, unknowable. By the time I reached the edge of the trees, the sense of being watched was gone. Only then did I realize how much quieter my own thoughts had become. I never saw the wolves again. But sometimes when I walk alone and the forest grows still in a way that feels intentional, I remember that day. I remember the line I crossed without knowing it was there. And I wonder, not whether they could have hurt me a little, but whether they would have let me stay.